9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, November 6, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Phone lines super hot today as we debate Obamacare, ACA, subsidies, government shutdown, air traffic controllers not getting paid, DIA stepping up to try to make it happen. Oh, my goodness. Welcome to a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, but more importantly, a radio show that includes you in the conversation. So let's dive in. Eddie Littleton. Good morning, Eddie. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Well, Gary got me riled up. I'd love to give him an hour show as far as, and he could talk about all these programs that have been temporarily extended and then taken back down.
Yes.
But you hear about these healthcare costs going up 400% and 500%. The reason, you know who those people are? These are public employee pension people from Illinois and these high pension states that retire in their early 50s or early 60s. The pension programs can't afford their health care, and they dump them on Obamacare, and you and I pay for their Cadillac pension programs. And if you don't believe that's true, go read the Wall Street Journal. It had an excellent article on that. The other thing that I think is part of the discussion when it comes to health care, the illegal on health care, if you don't think in California, there's probably 1 million of them taking our tax dollars that California signs up without any documentation. It goes on all the time, the fraud in that program. It just drives me. And I have to say this about SNAP benefits. You talk about socialism expanding. The media there's nothing in the media that supports conservatism. When any of these things are cut back, you could go back 100 years and probably pull up a clip. It's the same thing. Grandma crying as she can't get her food and she's starving at the refrigerator. They don't show Hernandez getting his illegal food benefits. They don't show anybody, 300 pounds overweight smoking crack getting their food benefits. It's always grandma. They're so good.
Eddie, got a question though. What do you think those people that you are describing, what do you think they are as far as a percentage of those receiving something like SNAP benefits or healthcare benefits? What percentage of the population receiving those benefits do those people you describe make up?
Well, right now, 1 in 8 Americans are taking SNAP and food benefits. I'm sorry, I don't buy that 1 in 8 need it. I'll bet there's 25% to 30% at least that have no business being on a program and getting free food.
How would you hang on? Okay, Eddie, let's stop right there. How would you define, hold on a sec, Eddie, slow down just for a sec. How would you define them as far as not being able to be on the food program? What would you need to see? Because SNAP is supposed to be there for elderly, disabled, people like that.
Over 50% of the people on SNAP are illegals.
That's not true.
They are entitled to get it.
Eddie, that's not true. No, that's not true. Sir, that's not true. No, sir, it is federal. No, it is not allowed by federal law. In fact, Jeff himself talks about loopholes that's created inside of California and other places that work around these things. So the federal law does not allow them to pull SNAP. But let's go back to the percentage. Let's go back to the percentage of illegals and people that shouldn't be working. What's the percentage on SNAP or those health care benefits do you believe it is?
I will answer that. And I was mistaken. It's WIC that over half of them are illegals. And if you don't believe that, check that out. It was WIC.
I'll take a look, but I haven't seen that either. But I'll take a look. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I don't have any information that I can say one way or the other.
At least 25% have no business getting food benefits.
Okay, according to SNAP, it's basically there's 16% of them on there that are of working age and could possibly be mobile enough in order to go out there and work. So if we'd say, hey, if you have that ability and we just kick you off a SNAP, that's only at 16%. That we haven't seen anything. Money. I know, but it's not the 25% that Eddie is saying. And what I'm trying to elucidate here is that sometimes our impressions of what's going on inside the system are not actually what's going on inside the system. That sometimes what we have is these preconceived notions is not the balance of what is actually being and who's being taken care of.
Well, getting back to my original point, the eligibility for food stamps, if you take a look at the history of that program, have gone up and up and up and up. They've never gone backwards. They keep adding more people and eligibility on those food stamps. It's nowhere near 1 in 8 what it was 10 years ago.
When it started. Yeah, that's right. And then the eligibility to get Obamacare has gone up. You can now be at 400% of the poverty line in order to get Obamacare subsidies. So, no, they always go in one direction. That was the problem I had with Gary, too. Look, if Gary wants to spend his own money on providing benefits to people, no one's going to stop him from doing that. But it's just a constant march towards higher and higher taxes in an effort to provide more and more services from the government.
Yeah, it'd be much better off if people were starving in the streets and not getting health care. Yeah,
see, that becomes the socialist doom loop. Because, Bill, you can't imagine a world where the government doesn't provide it.
Provide what? What's the it?
Well, you just provided the food and the health care.
No,
because you just said people were going to die in the streets.
No. I live in a world where the government doesn't provide it. I don't get government health care, nor do I get government food. So I live in a world where it doesn't provide it.
And how are things going for you? Are they getting more expensive?
Yeah.
Everything's getting more expensive. How's the quality of care?
My quality of care is fine.
Really? I think it's going down for a lot of people.
Well, I know, but you asked about me. My quality of care has been
But things
same.
are getting more expensive. So quality of care has gone the same, but everything's getting more expensive.
Yeah.
I will say, I think...
No, everything gets more expensive. There's cost of living every year. It's a question about how much over COLA. But that's it. I mean, that again, it's a larger economic conversation.
If I could I jump in?
Please go ahead.
Okay, I do agree with Gary in terms of it's over. Socialism has been taught in the schools. If you talk to kids, Santa Claus is wonderful. I want Santa Claus. I want more toys under the tree. It's done. We are marching towards socialism, and there's no stopping until, and it will happen, like the last caller said. You'll have Greece and USA in terms of what happened with Greek. You know, their money worthless, laying off 40-50% of their government workers. I mean, there is a bill that comes due, but it's not going to happen until something like that takes place, because it's so much easier to promise toys under the tree for a politician.
Eddie, you're exactly right. And I think you see it in that belief that unless the government provides it, people die in the streets and there's no compassion. And it goes right to what Mondani said on Tuesday, that the government's here to solve all your problems. All right, Eddie, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Now is time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Hey, good morning. Thursday, 58 with some clouds, plenty of sunshine, beautiful morning. In Denver, expecting a high of 66 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
January 6th.
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you.
Former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, what a sweet lady, says she won't seek re-election. She made the announcement in a video this morning.
I will not be seeking re-election to Congress. With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative.
Term limits, she's 85. She's been doing it for 4 decades. One of San Francisco's finest. Here's Dollar Store Obama.
Historic, legendary, transformational leader who will go down in history as the greatest speaker of all time.
That is awesome. God, he's so dedicated. That is one of the greatest statements of all time. Thursday night football at Mile High tonight. Cortland Sutton and the Broncos go for 7 straight wins at the stadium. Sutton loves the younger players like R.J. Harvey, who've been great this season.
But I think we have a lot of really good young guys, especially on the offense side of the ball. RJ's been special, man. It's been a lot of fun watching him go out there and perform. And I'm always messing with him because he's a very smart and humble dude that, he doesn't say much. He just kind of goes out there and he's really good at what he does. And it's fun to watch him go out there and perform. But, he gets excited when he makes good plays, but he's not like a boastful, young guy. You come across some dudes that may be very boastful about themselves. And
that's awesome. Love it. RJ Harvey. Flights at 40 airports across the country will be reduced by 10% starting tomorrow. DIA seeking to pay air traffic controllers themselves and then later get reimbursed by the government as the Schumer shutdown continues. And FAA records show the UPS plane that crashed and killed at least a dozen people in Louisville recently spent time at a maintenance facility. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy.
This was not an air traffic controller issue, right? I want to be clear on that. This appeared to be more mechanical, but we do have the flight and data recorders. Those are in the process of being analyzed right now. They'll tell us a lot about what was happening on that aircraft.
Maintenance records show a crack in the jet's fuel tank needed a permanent repair. It was grounded in San Antonio from September 3rd until October 18th. 47 says that Kamidani's victory was speech. His speech was angry, especially toward him. We already heard from small business owners in Manhattan of all backgrounds say this is a disaster. Nikola Jokic last night, Nuggets, another triple-double. 35 points, 15 boards, 16 assists. 5 triple-doubles this season.
Nuggets 16 assists already on 20 made field goals. That's good. Now Jokic has it. Alley-oop! To Gordon! Splash one!
All right, 122-112, Nuggets over the Heat, and then the Heat coach, Eric Spoelstra, they fly back home to Miami, and part of his house burns down this morning, and luckily no one was injured in that one. A couple weeks ago, after the CU Buffs were destroyed by Utah, he demoted offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur, and the media just found out about that. On Wednesday, they took away play calling duties from him. Once again, CU at West Virginia Saturday morning. Cowboys' Marshawn Kneeland, a defensive end, has died at the age of 24. He recovered a block punt over the weekend against the Cardinals for a touchdown. And then they announced this morning he passed away. The organization did not provide a cause of death. Capital star Alex Ovechkin has made NHL history, scoring 900 goals. All right, 56 in Aurora, 55 in Golden, 58 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
We won't be quite as warm as yesterday, but still very mild for early November. As highs will be upper 60s to near 70, sunny to partly sunny skies, breezy southeast winds, lows tonight in the low to mid 40s. Partly cloudy, breezy, winds picking up tomorrow afternoon in particular, highs in the 60s, clear Thursday night, colder, lows lower 30s. Then we're looking at just 50s and lower 60s for highs Friday, upper 50s Saturday, Friday and Saturday cooler as a Pacific front comes through, gusty winds as well. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Editorial out of the Denver Gazette. Governor's land grab repudiated. Governor Jared Polis has pushed a puzzle of laws through the legislature over the past couple of years that mandate sweeping revisions to local land use rules. His attempt essentially to rezone Colorado's metro areas micromanages matters ranging from the number of housing units per parcel to whether new housing can be required to have off-street parking. The purported near-term goal is to create more affordable housing, smaller units sandwiched closer together, especially near public transit. That, in turn, is supposed to drive prices down by creating more multifamily residences. It amounts to a textbook truism that's likely to be thwarted by the realities of Colorado's real estate market. The long-term vision underlying the governor's housing agenda is the ever-vague sustainability, unquote, that denser zoning supposedly confers on a community. And if you're unsure of the exact meaning of that much-abused magic word, rest assured, so are we. But on Tuesday, 3A in Littleton was passed by a comfortable margin that was a repudiation of Governor Polis's attempts to bring in high-density multifamily. Joining us now, very talented and amazing harmonica playing Jimmy Sengenberger. Good morning, Jimmy. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, I'm glad you're covering the Denver Gazette's editorial this week on 3A. It's a profound, I agree with the editorial, a profound repudiation of Governor Polis's agenda on local communities.
Yeah, it essentially, what 3A did was say, no, we're not going to buy into changing up the zoning, especially if it's around single family, and force high-density multifamily. We're going to keep our ranch homes. And these are, I'm not talking about big ranches. I'm talking about ranch, like single-story ranch homes that make up a majority of the neighborhoods around Denver in the metro areas. And people want to keep them like that. That was the message sent in Littleton. Your thoughts, Jimmy?
Yeah, when you have a neighborhood and it's zoned for your single-family homes, and that's the expectation that you have for your neighborhood, you want to keep it that way. At least most people will want to keep it that way. Governor Polis and others have different plans. In Littleton, the city was moving forward with higher density zoning, but decided, you know what, we're not going to. That wasn't enough relief for the citizens of Littleton, many of whom gathered together and said, let's make a difference and a change for ourselves, and put the kibosh on this movement. And that's how you got 3A, which clearly passed, as you said, by a comfortable margin. And this is a message in two ways. One, to Governor Polis, keep your hands off of this effort to push high-density zoning upon local communities, which, by the way, is, as the editorial notes, it's part of a broader pushback on these kinds of things. You have cities like Aurora and Arvada and several others that are pushing back on the mandates of Governor Polis to go in this direction when he's saying we're going to cut off federal funds. Sounds almost Trumpian, right? They're not federal funds, but state funds. Sounds almost Trumpian in some respects, saying, if you don't comply here, then we're not going to give you the money that you were due for affordable housing and so forth. Now, the second point that I think is important is that there is the notion of local control. And people in communities have this expectation that if they are going to move into a neighborhood or have another situation for their living arrangement, then it's going to stay that way and not be taken out from under them like the rug being pulled away. And in a moment like this, when you have some cities pushing back, as I mentioned in that lawsuit, to see citizens say, we've got the opportunity for a citizens initiative, let's move forward with this and make a difference to protect our own communities, that is a lesson for everybody. Get involved yourself and don't just let somebody else do it, because you might be able to make a difference that will impact you and your neighbors.
It's Jimmy Sengenberger, columnist with the Gazette. We're talking about the editorial out. Governor's land grab repudiated. Now, Jimmy, help me understand from your perspective, what do you think happened Tuesday night? Because, like, for instance, in Littleton, they go, hold on, Gov. We're going to keep this community the way we like it. You're not going to come in here and tell us what to do. But at the same time, some great local conservatives that these aren't firebrand conservatives. People that have served well on the Centennial City Council, for instance. Robin Carnes comes to mind. Lose their election, and they put in more liberal, progressive city council members. So how do you how do you balance that out? They don't want the governor telling them what to do, but they're willing to put progressives into city council.
Well, they also like to protect Tabor, but they're willing statewide to vote for a school lunches scam like voters just did. I think Coloradans are a very contradictory voting bloc in a lot of ways. Centennial was a shock. I really was hoping that Don Sheehan would be the mayor of Centennial. He's been a fantastic councilman, and he's just a great guy who really knows the city, knows the things that need to be done to make it a better place. And to see this kind of a flip in Centennial as well as Aurora, what was quite shocking to me. And I don't know. I think part of it might be Trump. To be honest, we know this. President Trump is not popular in Colorado. But then again, it's a nonpartisan race in the sense that you're not affiliated on the ballot, whereas it's stated Republican, Democrat every couple years, like next year when we have the gubernatorial elections. City council races and school boards are not listed as partisan. So voters don't necessarily know, which makes it a little bit trickier to figure out exactly what went on there. But I do think that's part of it. It's easy to tell who's the Republican, who's the Democrat. I also think people are sort of in a mood where they are, with local governments, not paying attention. This is consistent, actually. It's not just a mood, where they don't pay nearly enough attention to what's actually happening in day-to-day basis in their local communities. So, for example, you have a city council race or a school board race, people don't know who's on the council or the board already and aren't paying enough attention. Then they see ads, and if they do turn out, and turnout's exceptionally low for local races, they might vote for the people they're seeing more on social media. And quite frankly, Democrats have done a pretty good job from what I've seen on social media this year, and that may be a piece of it. But it is a head-scratcher and a big disappointment.
So my perspective, Jimmy Sengenberger, is that Colorado's generally dominated by socialists at this point, and here's my reasoning why. We often, for those of us that have grown up, and Jimmy and I have been here forever, so we remember the days it was like, well, Colorado's just socially libertarian state, fiscally conservative, but on the social issues, we align with the Democrats, and that's why they win. I went down to the Bernie Sanders rally. 30,000 people showed up for that. I don't think they were paid protesters. I think they were genuine supporters of Bernie Sanders. You have the poll by Magellan Strategies where AOC is the most lauded politician by Colorado voters at this point. They vote for LL and MM. The suburbs, Jeffco, Arapahoe County, now Douglas County, all going deep blue. I think there's a big embrace of socialism taking place in Colorado right now. What's your thoughts?
I don't know that I would say there's a big embrace of socialism, but there's certainly a bigger embrace of government. I mean, I remember in the mid and late 2000s when I was just getting involved in politics myself as a high school student, Arapahoe County was run by Republicans. It was a rock-solid Republican county. Now it's exactly the opposite. It's a rock-solid blue county. Same with Jefferson County. And there was a brief period where both of them were like the swing counties. As goes Arapahoe and Jeffco, so goes the state. Well, that seems to be true, but in a different way, which is consistently a blue way. I wouldn't say socialist per se. I would say Democrat in terms of policies in a lot of different areas, that there's this sense of, and you talked about it a moment ago, compassion. Don't we want to help people in need? Let's make sure that everybody has free school lunches and so forth. And that mentality is certainly a nanny state mentality. And I would just look at socialism a little bit more as sort of controlling the means of production or some of the policies. I mean, heck, look at Mamdani. He wants government-run grocery stores and so forth. But that's not to say that there aren't socialist elements that Colorado voters are willing to support in this state. They certainly are, which is why we're a blue state, because when you look at what it means to have big government, that implies nanny state mentality. That implies more government services and higher taxes. But we do have that paradox again when it comes, Jeff, to the taxpayers' Bill of Rights, because when there's an explicit attack on Tabor, voters say, hell no, When there's an explicit offer to reduce the tax rate for income taxes, voters say, absolutely, let's do it. But then they look at that LL and MM and they see this. And this is a leftist mentality, progressive, liberal, and socialist mentality. Oh, it's just people making $300,000 or more? Oh, I'm okay with taxing the rich. That's not going to impact me. But guess what, folks? Over time, eventually, they will scale it down. It will go down to 200,000, 100,000. Everybody eventually will be chipping into this program. It's the same thing with a progressive income tax, which the left is trying to do in this state. They say, oh, well, we just want to create a second bracket for the wealthier people, and that's it. Well, you start opening that up, then the floodgates will burst open fully, and you will see the kind of tax code like we have at the federal level. But it works because they are pushing that class warfare mentality, and unfortunately, Coloradans seem to be susceptible to it.
That voice is Jimmy Sengenberger. You know him well, columnist with the Denver Gazette. Formerly did a show here. Now a man about town, doing all sorts of other things on radio, and especially providing you incredible information inside the Denver Gazette. What I want to talk to you a little bit there, Jimmy, is kind of have you put on your communication hat as well. And where I'm going with this is, so we're outlining how come this idea of high density communities was rejected, but in other cases, as Jeff outlined, some of the more liberal and even socialist candidates won around the state. Looking at how this issue was communicated about affordable housing, smaller units, what's going to happen in the local communities, what messaging cues do you think maybe conservatives or other people could take from this issue? What do you think the people that were pushing back against Polis's basically mandate to get high density buildings and communities into these areas, what did they do right that allowed them to win when so many other measures went the other direction?
I think that's a great question, Bill. And I would say, in particular, it's because they made it about people and their neighborhoods and the lifestyles that they have chosen to live and the expectations they have for their neighborhoods. And I think conservatives need to learn that lesson. To your point and your question, in regards to housing more broadly, that you have to be careful and smart in how we approach this issue, because just saying affordable housing isn't enough. Because people might say, as Polis does, we need more high-density housing, and that's going to do the trick in order to help promote more affordable housing. Well, what does that mean for our neighborhoods? What does that mean for people who have certain expectations or for their property values, what have you? I think it's very much about that personalization, that you want to address affordable housing, but you want to do it in a way that won't upend how you live your life and what your expectations are. It's why I think there are a lot of folks in Lakewood who are outraged over a corrupt deal going on. I think I've talked about it with you guys before with Jefferson County Schools and how the school district is selling a school of Emory Elementary at dirt cheap to the city of Lakewood, which is then passing it off for $1 million to a nonprofit called the Action Center. And that's all in a neighborhood school of Emory Elementary that was zoned specifically for schools. And it's going to change the nature of the neighborhood, especially because of all the homeless services that the Action Center provides. And there's a lot of outrage from folks in the community about that, especially as they learn more about what's happening. I've written extensively on it. I think next Tuesday I'll have a column about this. But I think that goes to show the same kind of thing as 3A. People care about living the life that they have chosen, going to that sort of libertarian mindset of Colorado, but they also want affordable housing. So how can conservatives or Republicans bring a message that captures both? Let's address affordable housing in these ways, perhaps addressing construction defects that prevent condos from being built, and keep your neighborhoods the way that they are and the way that you want them.
That's Jimmy Sengenberger, columnist with the Gazette, joining Jeff and Bill live. Check out his brand new column about one of the high points of where the voters pushed back on what Governor Polis wanted to do. Now, I want to switch gears with you, Jimmy, because I know you are talented enough to do something like this. I want to talk to you about money in campaigns, specifically the Aurora City Council campaign. One of the things that has surprised me the most is Danielle Jurinsky and the other at-large guy whose name I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to embarrass myself for him by mispronouncing it here on the air. They had the highest war chest. They both had over six figures compared to everybody else, yet they turned out to be third and fourth in the race. Normally we hear more money really helps you win. From where you sit and what you saw in the races, how come in this specific race, the at-large seats for Aurora City Council, did more money not equate to a win?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. I haven't wrapped my head entirely around Aurora, particularly in terms of the resounding defeat for the conservatives running, especially the one with Danielle Jurinsky, although I would wonder if because in the last election she was so closely tied to President Trump, attending the rally for the immigration issue, which I think, Jeff, you and I both were there. And it was a fascinating time, of course, to see the President of the United States come and announce Operation Aurora and really pitch the illegal immigration issue that has been such a staple of this term of office. I think there's probably a lot of frustration amongst the more middle ground or left-leaning folks in Aurora that turned out. It really comes down to turnout. Who's more motivated? And if you see these kinds of things that might be getting you to go, I really don't like what's happening, and that excites you enough to vote in a low turnout race like local elections really are, that in this case worked to the disadvantage of Danielle Jurinsky and the rest of the ticket. And that to me is very unfortunate because she's done such a phenomenal job, as has the majority that has leaned right over the past few years, a phenomenal job in representing the interests of law enforcement, making some changes in that regard to address crime, really spotlighting the issue of Tren de Aragua in Aurora. I mean, how in the world would we know about Tren de Aragua being what it was and remains here in Colorado if not for the leadership of Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky? She's one of the first people I certainly communicated with as I was writing columns about the issue in the summer of last year. And yet, sometimes these issues can come back to bite you if the moment is a little different. And in this case, President Trump is not popular in Colorado. The immigration issue is a flashpoint there. And I think because Danielle Jurinsky is such a well-known figure and the most known of the members of the council on the right, for sure, that maybe that had an impact on some others in the ticket, which is unfortunate, like I said, because she's been one of the stalwart leaders, yet sometimes the political moment works to your disadvantage.
Jimmy Sengenberger with great analysis. He's a columnist with the Gazette. You've got a piece coming out Friday about the school board elections. Give us a little preview if you can.
Yeah. Speaking of editorials, the Denver Gazette has one on Denver public schools and the outcomes there. I'm going to be recapping and delving into, and I got to actually finish that after the interview, finish up my column, with focusing on Denver public schools, Jefferson County schools, and Douglas County schools, and some of the key takeaways. I would say it is notable in Denver, for example, where they talk about the union sweep and all four seats were held by the union this go around. Well, guess what? Two of the candidates who lost, Scott Esserman and Michelle Quattlebaum, are union candidates because they were installed with tens and tens of thousands of dollars in backing 4 years ago by the teachers union. But they have been so bad, so disruptive and destructive, including during the first 2 years of their tenure when Tay Anderson, my good buddy, was on the school board still, that even the union said, we need to abandon you guys. And that, I think, is in part a reaction to the public outcry against how the school board has acted. The union has tremendous influence on school board races all over the place. In fact, Denver Gazette has reported about 70% of races with union-endorsed candidates end up going in the union's direction, which, there are a lot of reasons we can tease out at a later point. But I would just add that's significant, the loss of Esserman and Quattlebaum. You also can look at Jefferson County schools, where 2 union-backed candidates won, but one did not. And I still will count Michael Yoakum as a union candidate because, number one, he was endorsed by the union before they withdrew their endorsement following those revelations about juvenile sexual assault offenses. And that polling of support in that regard, just now we're not endorsing him, but they did not. I have not seen any proof of this. To my knowledge, they did not pull the money that they had given to Yoakum. And not only that, but when they attacked and maligned the 4 candidates that they did not endorse, Michael Yoakum was not one of them. Well, then you have this outcome with a victory of the non-union candidate, and I think that should send a message. And that was resounding, 65-35. That should send a message as well to the school board. You guys need to actually take the issues of sexual misconduct that have been plaguing Jeffco schools seriously, and you have to eliminate all of those, any last vestiges of trusted adult policies, because people are fed up with it to the point where that story is the reason why Yoakum, those revelations are the reason why Yoakum lost. And that message should be heard loud and clear. Unfortunately, I'm not so confident the district or its new leadership, except for the one candidate who did win against him, will take that message seriously.
Fantastic analysis from Jimmy Sengenberger. He's a must-read each week with the Denver Gazette. Get your subscription there. Read his work. It's absolutely fantastic. One of the best we have here in Colorado. Follow him on X at Seng Center, S-E-N-G Center, C-E-N-T-E-R. Jimmy, really appreciate your time this morning.
Yes,
thank
you so much, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Always great.
Let's talk Gyrie's. My wife and I went recently to Gyrie's in Parker and had a fantastic experience. Look, we were looking to update our home with some new blinds because we'd been buying the cheap blinds and the string was always breaking and stuff like that. We got to sit down with their professional designer and they showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. And rather than just having to guess as to what it might look like, we got to ask lots of questions, and they provided us with perfect options to enhance the look and functionality of our home. So whether your curtains are clashing or you just want a fresh look, Gyrie's has the solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. Here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come to you, so you can get the same expert advice right in your home that we got ourselves. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit Gyrie's.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com, GUIRYS.com. Gyrie's. Great people. Go see them. You'll be sure to thank me. And we'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Boy, it's been hot. By the way, the list of the FAA, from the FAA of the airports that are going to be affected does include Denver, Bill.
Oh, boy.
We're one of the 40, so expect a 10% cut in flights starting tomorrow.
If you're a frequent flyer, more time in the lounge.
Golly. It's already stressful enough. You got to get there with enough time, and then you get your TSA pre and all the bags checked out. Now you got to see if your flight's even there, all because of the Schumer shutdown.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with Schumer.
I just love handing our government so much power. And Bill, can you at least admit this is a good example of how stupid it is to hand things into the hands of our government overlords?
Well, this is the thing that I would go with as far as not handing stuff into not giving that and putting in their hands. What I think this is a great example of is lack of election consequences. Is that nobody who is involved in this government shutdown will have any sort of electoral consequences. They're not going to face any sort of negative pressure by and large because of this. So there's no negative enforcement of not doing it. If I was telling someone on the text messages, if 90% of the people in Congress right now that are responsible for not opening the government, if 90% of them got bounced out during the next election, all the ones that were up, chances are we wouldn't see this again. If they started losing their jobs over this, you wouldn't see it again.
Now you got gerrymandering and all that stuff. I mean, look,
there's no consequences for it, so why would they care?
Is to get power. That is what they do. They want it. It is core to who they are, so they want that power, and then we put things like air traffic controllers into their hands. And they're going to use them as pawns.
Well, I think they're using all of us as pawns, but in part because I think the more important thing is not putting the power in their hands, but the fact that we as voters don't have them face electoral consequences. And I'm talking about on both sides, because once they're wearing your jersey, even if they do something you don't like, you'll still keep them in power. And there are a whole bunch of Democrats that should face electoral consequences for things that are going on right now. And in my mind, a whole bunch of Republicans that should also face electoral consequences, but not a single one of them will, because all of them, as you know, are fundraising off of it and going, look how horrible my opponents are, and they're the reason that none of this works. Give me more money so you can then send me back to Congress so I can, do this again to you in 12 months. Same thing in 12 months. Let's do it all again.
And then Nancy Pelosi made a fortune and gets to sail off into the sunset.
Yeah. Again,
text messages.
Why has she been relevant at all for the last, decade or so? It's ridiculous.
She's the Speaker of the House.
I know, and that's the problem. But again, oh well.
Text message from James. He works for United Airlines. The flights that will be affected will be to the smaller airports. They will continue international and hub-to-hub services.
Because that's the most profitable. That's what it is.
Right. No, I know.
That's exactly
like
it.
Heading out to Watkins or whatever.
Yeah. The nice part, there's also going to be some stuff. Remember this, if you're flying internationally, chances are those flights will not be the ones that are restricted because there are other rules that are involved therein. So it'll be domestic is what they're going to have to balance this on. Just so you know. I'm just saying if you're international flying, you don't have to worry about as much.
7586 saying Bill is 1,000% correct.
Hey, thanks, Mom. I'll call you later today. Appreciate you listening. It's always nice to hear
and
my
you're
mom
just proving
text
to me you don't know math. 7586 and your liberal mind.
I love you. Thank you so much for listening.
Having fun with you.
Appreciate you.
So it's been a wild show. Lots of debate. If you missed any of it, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast. Bill?
Yeah.
We didn't get into this too much today, but just your quick take. We got about a minute.
Yeah.
You got a new leadership in Aurora. You looking forward to it?
I am skeptical because while I didn't agree with the conservative Aurora City Council 100% of the time, and listen to this very closely, I trusted them not to F things up. Even if I don't agree with the direction they're going, and I didn't on 100%, and I never will in any politician, I trusted them not to F things up. I don't have any trust in the people that have been elected. I'm not saying they can't win it from me, but I am very skeptical at this time. Very skeptical about where they're going to go because I'm afraid they're going to start rolling back some of the important gains on crime and safety inside of the city. And that worries me. And that's from me, person that was called a socialist earlier today. This show's so much fun.
Bill, skeptical of the libs elected in Aurora City Council. I'm calling for the privatization of the FAA. My goodness.
And this is why y'all listen.
We're all over the place.
Yeah. Who else does this?
All right. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
We are almost there. It's Thursday. Deep breath. This is 710 KNUS. We'll catch you tomorrow.